You ever notice that the only thing in America you're allowed to fully pay off has the privilege of continuing to pay for it? I own my home. Well, technically I own the exciting responsibility of paying maintenance, insurance, utilities, and an annual ransom to the county so they don't put it on Zillow without my permission. And every year, the county sends me a letter that basically says, "Good news, your house is worth more." Which is interesting because my house has not, in any measurable sense, become more house. It didn't grow a third bathroom. It didn't install a wine cellar. It still has that one outlet that only works if you threaten it. But apparently somewhere a government office looked at my neighborhood, consulted the sacred spreadsheets, sacrificed a whole toner cartridge, and declared, "Congratulations, your net worth has increased. Please remit payment immediately." That's not ownership, that's a subscription service. And unlike Netflix, the county doesn't even pretend that it's adding value. Now, to be fair, property taxes fund local services, schools, roads, emergency services. That's real, that's important. Civilization is, generally speaking, preferable to the alternative. But I'm also a Marine. I've seen what happens when governments stop providing basic services. Spoiler alert, the Yelp reviews are terrible. But here's where people get frustrated, and frankly, where they have a point. Your tax bill isn't based on what you earned this year. It's not based on what you sold. It's not based on the cash in your bank account. It's based on what someone else thinks your property might theoretically be worth if you sold it, which you didn't, to a person who doesn't exist in a market that changes faster than Congress changes its principles. So your home goes up on paper, and suddenly your tax bill acts like you hit the lottery. That's a neat trick. If my retirement account doubles, the IRS waits until I actually realize those gains. They don't send agents in black suits to bust through my front door saying, "Sir, your mutual fund had a really good quarter. Empty your pockets," even though it often seems like they do. But with property, different rules. Because apparently unrealized gains are only sacred when rich people own stocks. When middle-class families own homes, suddenly you've got economists trying to explain, well, technically, assessed value is not the same as unrealized capital appreciation. Unfortunately, most of the time they do that while sounding like Ben Stein and Ferris Bueller. And technically, a hot dog is a sandwich, but if you say that at a Texas cookout, people stop inviting you places. The point isn't that property taxes are literally a tax on unrealized gains. The point is that they feel like one. And politics is often less about accounting definitions than it is about whether voters feel like they're being bohica'd by a calculator. Especially in Texas, because Texans have a very specific understanding of property rights. We're the kind of people who will spend 45 minutes explaining why your fence line is 2 inches into their property. This is a state where men will fight a blood feud over mineral rights or barbecue recipes. So telling Texans you own your home as long as you keep paying us based on our opinion of its value is not exactly a winning message. And here's where both major parties start tap dancing like Gregory Hines. Republicans campaign against property taxes every election cycle, while usually standing in front of a flag large enough to qualify as air traffic control. Then they get into office and announce a bold, historic, transformative tax relief package that lowers your bill by $17 and a coupon for Whataburger. Democrats tend to focus, understandably, on funding the services that those taxes provide. And they're not wrong. Schools don't run on inspirational quotes. Fire departments can't be sustained entirely through bake sales, although, honestly, firefighters would absolutely dominate the cupcake market. But both parties dodge the underlying problem. Local governments are addicted to rising appraisals because they've built budgets around perpetual escalation. It's government by Zillow. And homeowners are left feeling less like owners and more like highly committed renters with better lawn equipment. That frustration is real. I've felt it myself. I'm the Libertarian candidate, and yes, my property taxes have gone up too. Liberty, it seems, does not include an exemption from the appraisal district. I know, shocking. The guy ranting about taxes is upset about taxes. Somewhere a stereotype just got its wings. But here's where the rhetoric has to meet reality. Abolishing property taxes overnight would be like removing an airplane engine because you don't like the fuel prices. Technically satisfying, briefly exhilarating, and then extremely educational. The real question isn't whether local government should be funded. It should. The question is whether a family's ability to stay in their home should depend on an annual valuation process that feels like performance art. That's the conversation we should be having. How do we fund communities without pricing people out of them? How do we preserve homeownership instead of turning it into a lifetime lease? How do we make tax systems predictable, transparent, and tied to the actual ability to pay? Those are hard questions, which is unfortunate because our current political system strongly prefers easy slogans and expensive mailers. And that's exactly why I'm running. Not because I think every government program is evil. Roads are nice, and as my wife and her friends might agree, firefighters are even nicer as they drool over the calendars. No, I'm running because too often old parties treat taxpayers like an ATM with emotional support issues, and then continue to wonder why we have those issues. One side promises relief and delivers paperwork. The other promises services and delivers invoices. And somewhere in the middle is a homeowner just like you and me, staring at an appraisal notice like it just insulted his mother. You should be able to build equity without fearing that your success will become unaffordable. You should be able to retire without wondering whether your house, the house that you paid off, can still force you out. You should never have to explain to your mortgage-free home why it's somehow more expensive than when it still owed money to the bank. That's just insulting. At the end of the day, property taxes aren't about revenue. They're about the relationship between citizens and government. Do you actually own your home, or are you merely the senior resident under a renewable county license agreement? Because if enough people are asking that question, maybe it's time politicians stopped treating it like a punchline. Because that's my job. I do the punchlines.